Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to my very first video on my new channel. This is my second video. It's going to be my labor and delivery story. So welcome to everybody. I hope you guys get something from this. Maybe you'll learn something, or maybe you can just relate to the experience. I will say the major thing that I learned throughout the entire experience is that when man plans, God laughs. Because he has a whole different thing going on in the background. So I just learned to surrender it all to him and let him have his way, because I will tell you up front, nothing about my labor and delivery story was anything like I planned for it to be ahead of time. So what I planned for was I wanted a natural labor and delivery. I wanted to labor at home. I wanted to listen to calming music, and I wanted to sit in the tub and all those things. My husband was fully prepared to massage me throughout my contractions, and then right when the baby was about to be born, I wanted to be rushed to the hospital and to have the baby at the hospital. But for the most part, I wanted no medication. I wanted it to be completely natural. I wanted my body to do all of the work. So what actually happened was I went to the doctor, I believe it was the Thursday prior to me having my son, and she let me know that I had not dilated at all. She asked me if I had been feeling contractions. I was not feeling any contractions, and she essentially said, we have no idea when the baby's going to come. And then we started to discuss induction. And so she said, if that's something you would be interested in, I can get you scheduled for the day after the due date, and then we can go ahead and induce labor at that time. Well, after 40 weeks of carrying him, I was like, let's just induce. I lost all patience. I was just like, let's just induce. So we went ahead, and I was hoping maybe he would come throughout the weekend. I still felt nothing. So on the day after his due date, we went into the hospital, and it was 8 p.m. I'll never forget. We went to Chewy's right ahead before that because I didn't know if I would be able to eat again. So I had this great meal. And then we went to the hospital, and they let me know what induction would consist of. And so they walked me through. They were going to put something on my cervix in order to soften up my cervix. Then they were going to give me Pitocin to manufacture contractions. And after the Pitocin kind of took hold and my body started contracting on its own, from that point on, it would just be me. So I was very excited that I could kind of still have a natural labor. So they came in and they checked my cervix first to see how far dilated I was. Let me tell you, that was probably the most painful part of the entire experience for me. I had a great nurse. She was very sweet, but she had hot dog fingers. They were so huge, and I had not dilated at all. So when she checked my cervix, it was so painful. My husband had to hold me down pretty much to get my cervix checked. It hurt so bad. It's just so uncomfortable. And so she checked my cervix to see where it was, and then she went and got the little pill that they put on your cervix to soften it up. Then she had to go back in there to put the pill on the cervix. I was like, this is horrible. And so they did that. Also, before everything got started, they had to give me an IV so that they could, give me the medication. Well, I never had any problems before, but it seemed like this time they were not able to find a vein, maybe because I was pregnant and everything was swollen, but they stuck me 4 different times before they could actually find a vein. So when they actually found the vein, and then I had to do the cervix check, and I was like, the beginning part of this was not comfortable for me at all. So after that, I pretty much rested and relaxed that whole rest of the night. They let me know that I could eat all the way up till midnight, so I did. And I just watched TV. I had my family in the room with me, and so we just kind of relaxed that night. And then they came in to give me the Pitocin, and they let me know that I would start feeling contractions. And I was excited because I'm weird like that. I was like, yes, I can feel it coming. I'll be so excited. I'll know the process is getting started. So they gave me the Pitocin, and originally for the first probably 4 hours, I felt nothing. I could look on the chart and see that, I was contracting, and then I could see when I wasn't. I didn't feel anything at all. And then they continued to increase my dosage of the Pitocin. Well, at about 4 to 6 hours later, I start feeling those contractions. And I'll say that they were uncomfortable, but they were not painful. Like, they weren't unbearable. I felt them. They felt like period cramps. And for me, I experienced cramps in my back. So I was having back contractions. And also, it just felt like if I stood up, everything was going to fall out of me. So I was like, let's not stand up if we don't have to. So that's kind of what it felt like. And then as time would increase, they would get more and more, they would become closer together, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So at a certain point, they had increased my dosage so much where they were literally back to back to back to back. My husband and I were counting them down. When the contraction would start, we would 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then when we hit the peak, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and before we know it, we were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. And I was like, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like this. So they were back to back. I didn't say anything because I thought that meant that the process was about to get started. But the nurse came in and let me know that, that was not good, especially because my body had not started to contract on its own. It was all the medication. So they took my dosage of Pitocin down and decreased the pain and decreased the how often I was receiving the contractions. And at that time as well, they asked me did I want any pain medication, and I had said I didn't, but if the process was going to last another 24 hours, I said, well, I'll take some morphine. So I got the morphine, and that helped with the cervix checks, because I was like, well, now I can't feel it, so that was good. But I took the morphine, and they continued to check my cervix. And excuse me if I keep looking off, my son is laying on the bed over there. But I continued to go throughout the process, and still my body wasn't contracting on its own. So on Thursday night, mind you, at that point I had been there over 24 hours, and nothing had happened. I had a different nurse come in, and she was continuing to look at my contractions and checking my heart rate and the baby's heart rate, and she looked concerned, and I was concerned because she was concerned. I didn't know what was going on, and she said, well, it looks like every time you have a contraction, the baby's heart rate is decreasing, and that could potentially cause problems for him. Well, I'm not going to have any problems with my baby. Like, no, let's go ahead and do what we have to do. What is the next step? And she was like, well, the next step would be to have a C-section. So I have gone from now having this natural thing happening at my house and with water running, and now I'm having a C-section. And so I was like, I did not really want to do that, but for his health and his well-being, it was no problem. So around 4 a.m. is when she told me that she contacted my doctor. So about 6:30, they started preparing me for the C-section. Well, at that time, I told them, hey, I've been taking morphine. Is that going to have any effect on him or me getting this C-section? And they said, well, no, it should have worn off by now. Okay. So around, I don't know, maybe 7:30, they take me down to get my epidural. That is probably the second most painful thing of this entire experience. So they stuck me in the back, and that hurt, and they gave me a pillow to bend over, and then they hit a nerve. So then the whole right side of my body shut down. It just was like, ugh. And I was like, this hurts. And she was like, well, be still, be still. And I'm like, I can't be still. This is painful. And so she has to take the needle completely back out. And she was like, we're going to have to try it again. Ma'am, no ma'am, that was the worst experience of my life. So she gets another man to come in there, and he kind of walks me through it. He's like, inhale. When I say inhale, breathe, bend over. We're going to say 1, 2, 3, ouch, and then you'll feel the shock of it, and then I'm going to push it in there. Everything's going to be good. Well, that's exactly how he did it. I was so appreciative that he walked me through the complete process. So I got the epidural, and he asked me, how was I doing? Was I feeling any numbness? I said, well, I feel tingling in my booty. And he was like, that's good. In a few minutes, you're going to be numb from like here down. And so I was, when they laid me on the bed thing, and they prepared me for the C-section. So my husband and my mom were both in the room with me, and I was laying there, and I couldn't feel a thing except for a little tugging here and there. And I was like, well, are they started? And at that point, my husband was like, yeah, all your organs are laying on the table. I was like, oh, I had no idea. And so we talked, and they moved things around, and then I told the nurse, I said, I think I'm gonna have to throw up. And she said, no, you'll be fine. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I have to throw up. And she said, okay. So she got me the little bucket, and I turned my head and I just upchucked everything. And by the time I looked back forward, they were holding up my son. They were like, here he is. And I was like, oh, he's the cutest thing. And so I'm sobbing uncontrollably. And then I noticed he is not making any noise. So I immediately freak out. I'm trying to get up. Mind you, I'm numb from like here down, so I can't get up. I'm like, why isn't he crying? Why isn't he crying? Everybody's trying to calm me down. Oh, he's fine. He's fine. No, he's not. He's not crying. What's wrong with him? And so they eventually came back and told me that because of the morphine, it took his lungs a minute to adjust. And so it took him longer to like take his first breath. Well, I was a little annoyed because I told y'all I was on morphine. So why we didn't, fix that ahead of time? But all in all, they had to do this little thing where they like had his lungs. They were working for him or helping him out. And then he started to breathe on his own. So I was okay with that. So he immediately went to the NICU and I went to my room. And the saddest thing, if you are a mother, the saddest thing is to be separated from your baby immediately after you have him, because you're like, I just want to hold him. So I was in my room for a while. They were getting him all cleaned up and helping him breathe and making sure he was okay. And then they took me down to the NICU to hold him. And so I got to hold him, and I was just in shock, I think. Like, I looked at him. There are pictures that I will put at the end of this video for you guys to see. And I was looking at him like, this is my baby. I had a whole baby. And so he was precious. He was perfect. And I held him, and, I tried to nurse him, and he got kind of latched on, but, he didn't want much. He just kind of latched on for a few minutes, and everybody let me know that was okay. And we separated again, and then before I knew it, they brought him back to the room with me. And there were a few difficulties while we were in the hospital. From his blood sugar, it decreased, and then for some reason he also said, they said he had jaundice. Jaundice is what it's called, a little bit of that. So we had to kind of like leave him under a light, or things like that. And after all of that, they sent us home, and I was just grateful that he was healthy, that I was okay, that, we got to take him home and raise him. And I'm that kind of nervous person that's like checking him as he's breathing the first week and a half. Like, are you okay? Are you still alive over there? And we've grown up together kind of since then. But I just remember being disappointed for a little while that the process didn't go how I planned on it to go. But all in all, I don't really care how the process went. I still got to have my little boy. He's still healthy, even with the beginning being a little rough. He's still healthy, and I still get to be his mother. So if you are pregnant and you're about to have a baby, it is great to come up with a birth plan. It is great to watch the videos, and it's great to, have all these expectations. But the flexibility is also necessary, because as much as you want to have control, you will not have any control over this experience. It'll be the baby, it'll be God. So just be flexible and realize that the end goal is to have a healthy, happy baby. So however you get to that goal, it's okay. For those people out there that think having a C-section makes you less of a mom, or you didn't have the baby the natural way, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Don't let anybody take that experience away from you, because you still have to heal from a C-section. That's surgery. So, you still go through a lot, even if you do have a C-section. Just bond with your baby and tune out all the rest of the noise, all the rest of everybody else's expectations, and just be grateful for the experience. That's all that I have for you guys today. I thank you guys for joining me for my second video. I'll be uploading my third video, not next week, but the week after that. So be looking forward to that. I love you all tremendously. And before we go, remember that you are blessed, that you were chosen, and that you are indeed a mom on purpose. Love you guys.